when I first started, I went to a hell of a lot of talks by entrepreneurs talking about entrepreneurship and all those things. And although their talks were very, very inspiring and full of kind of interesting kind of slogans like think big, don't quit, and all that stuff, very rarely did I ever come away with anything tangible, practical that I could apply tomorrow. So today, hopefully, will not be one of those days. Hopefully all of you will leave with something very tangible that hopefully will serve you for the rest of your careers. So my agenda today is to kind of run through a bit of my story and what I do, and to weave in some of my philosophies and tools, and what helped me get to where I am today. And then to anchor in on a couple of processes around pitching and presenting, which Darren asked me to talk about, and hopefully then to break out into some actual doing, because I think that all good learning workshops need to have a bit of participation in there, and then close off with some feedback and reflection. So, becoming exponential, my story, this is very heavy for the talk. Cool, so 4 years ago, I graduated. I went to UCL, I did architecture, and I put on the gown, and I was determined that after that day I wouldn't step foot into an architecture school again, not as a student at least. So I gave myself a year to experiment, to try some things out. And the problem was, I was pretty bad. I mean, even though I did an architecture degree, I didn't actually know anything about web design, didn't really know anything about online, and I had no business experience whatsoever. So all of you were way, way, way ahead of me 4 years ago. However, today, people actually pay me to design stuff. And I think that it's quite amazing how quickly you can build skills and learn stuff if you have the right mindset. So another thing that I did in my first year is I built a totally useless app. So I went onto Odesk, and I was using my iPhone for that first year. And I was like, oh, it's so annoying that I can't put my notes into folders. You know what, I'm going to build an app to do that. And so I designed it, I went onto Odesk, I got it developed, and I put it into the App Store for under 500 quid. And I managed to sell about 400 apps for like 50p. So I didn't even make my money back from what I spent on development. And of course, there's a wonderful software company in Silicon Valley called Evernote that solves all of those problems effortlessly. So completely useless, doesn't exist anymore, but taught me a hell of a lot about what it means to design and launch a digital product. And then there was my Good People adventure, which was 15 months where I worked for probably less than minimum wage if I add up all the numbers. And in that time, 15 months, we raised about £1.5 million in deal flow, just me and my senior partner. And we got some free office space in the Shard. So you'd think that was a pretty good deal. But 6 months later, I quit with only 10k in my bank account. And the first thing I did in the kind of early morning when I decided to send that email was I jumped on a plane and flew to the Alps, put on an elephant onesie, and went on a hike. And that was a trip organised by a very good friend of mine, Juan, who is going to be speaking a bit later. So, really fun. The first time I put on a onesie, I like it. And that was
you still like it? You still got it?
Yeah, I still have it. Hopefully, we'll do a onesie party before the end of the year, but we'll see. So try now. Okay, so that was the birth of Exponentials, and for me, it was going to be about learning. It was going to be about venture, and it was going to be a kind of not just a business, but a life philosophy of mine. So. But yes, the best way to explain Exponentials is a mix between a design consultancy and a business accelerator. And I focus on 3 key areas. First of all, doing design and getting paid for it. Then building technology platforms and licensing them out so that I build one thing and sell it, hopefully an infinite number of times. And then the final thing I do is I work with particular entrepreneurs that I believe in, who have high growth technology ventures with a purpose. And I help them scale and do everything it takes to get them to the next stage, to build a team, to raise investment, and really move from idea, a couple of founders, to actually a thriving business. So I'll talk through some of them now. So one of them, the first, was student funding. So one of my favorite people, one, who you'll meet later today and you'll see why, set himself a mission to transform how education is funded, especially for postgraduate, at the postgraduate level. So, long story short is he'll explain this much better than me. If you don't have a rich mum and dad, you can't study, especially not in kind of master's, PhD level, because there's no student loans. So he's built a digital bank with a new way to assess risk, a new way to manage admin that puts students at the heart of the experience. So a really cool venture, raised over £500,000 in equity and is doing really well. So another startup, and what I kind of do is I become a temporary co-founder for 3 to 6 months, and I kind of work 2 or 3 days a week, jump on board, do everything it takes, and help build the momentum that is needed to get them across the line. The next one is a little bit smaller. It doesn't have a technology component, but it has a strong education component, which is also important to me. And it's Coach Right, and it's basically doing aspirational coaching in schools. Basically, schools kill creativity, curiosity, that's bad. So what can you do to start to bring some of those big questions back into the classroom? So what Robin does is he goes into schools, gets university grads and students and gets them to coach and run workshops, which is quite cool. And it's all around big questions and literacy and all that stuff. So that's a cool project, and he's in his first 4 or 5 schools, and he's doing well. Might even be hiring the first person. So then there's the latest venture called Give Vision, which is the most high-tech thing I've ever been involved in. And they're building Google Glass for blind. Basically, they're taking kind of smart specs and the smart cameras, and they're building software so that those live cameras can be turned into an intelligent buddy for blind people, so that it can give audio instructions and guidance, recognize objects, read live text, and basically create in the moment independence. So very cool. They're off and running in the last 3 months, and yeah, make good progress. And then on top of that, so the startup work I do, it's very much a risk that I take. I kind of love doing it, I enjoy it, I learn a lot from it. And I don't charge any of the entrepreneurs a thing until they reach a big milestone, like raising 100 to $500,000. And so in return, I kind of get paid when they have a bit of financial stability, and I take a little bit of equity too. The thing that actually, my cash cow is my design services. And even though I only do probably spend 20% of my time on that stuff, it does bring in most of my cash flow, definitely in the short term. So I've been fortunate enough to develop a process that enables me to really quickly provide good branding, webs set up, and just design stuff for people that need it. And my golden rule for if you're ever going to do any design consulting is only ever give the client one option. It's super simple, paradox of choice. If you come into a client meeting, you say, right, you listen, you understand their business, and you tell them, okay, I know what you need. This is how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost $3K to get your brand and website up that you can then edit on Wix. Great. Pay me 50% up front, then I'll work with you and I'll give you one option. And you can say yes or no, and then you can choose whether you pay the next 50%. So the reason why that works is you spend a lot of time really understanding, questioning the business, but you don't let the client decide on the design, because that's actually what you do. And the amount of indecision that comes from giving even 2 options is amazing. Because then they say, oh, I like this and I like this. Could we do something in the middle and then a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right? And then you spend the next 2 weeks messing around. So for me, it's always been a question with respect to my design consultancy. How can I really optimize my time so that I deliver the client what they want, but in the minimum amount of time possible? So that's an interesting little hack. So,
how many people don't you need the next week?
So far none. So I have a very, very specific look, which is clean, minimal shapes. Everything has lots of white space. People tend to like that. So far no.
How do people feel when you sort of say, look, I'm going to give you one option? Is that sort of like what's going on here?
The way I just describe it is, you're not just paying for my time, you're also wasting your own. So your time is valuable too. And all this iteration, you're at the early stage of this project, you need to get something high quality out fast.
It's the 80-20 rules. I mean,
Exactly.
you can tinker with it as much as you like, but you're not going to.
Exactly.
It's not going to change the way you business runs.
I'm the designer, and it's
That's what you
rather,
do.
and that's what I do. So it's so what you ask for is you try and understand what it is that they need, and you show them that you, before doing any design, you connect with them on the fact that you understand their business, because then that enables you then to produce a design where they don't feel that it's just some random design, even though it kind of is. It's just a series of box with nice text, really. But you've shown them that you understand, and you know what the business purpose of the design is. And then you give them one option, and it's nice, and they're happy, I'm happy, we move on. So, what that has enabled me to do is actually then invest into a platform. So, like I said, it's not just about selling your time, it's also building assets. And so, I've had a wonderful opportunity to take, I think, 12K of that 30K that I'd invoiced and invest it into Genesis. And a long time ago, I realized that there were so many organizations out there that want to go online. And they want to go online with a marketplace, a platform, a community, all that stuff. And, but they need to do it in a sustainable way. They don't have a huge budget to throw at this. So what if you could build, using open source technology, an infrastructure that enables any organization to launch a peer-to-peer community platform for under 5K. And then for that community to be revenue generating out of the box. And that's what we put together. And I'm very happy at this point in time because we've now built a whole thing, which is very exciting. And it works. I've tested it many nights. And so what Genesis does is it's a mobile responsive website that enables people to log in through LinkedIn, build a dynamic profile. There's a networking notice board for jobs and projects and stuff. There's a learning zone resource library. There's a kind of induction welcome page, as well as the premium marketing features, membership features. So anyone can sell files and products online. There's event calendars and tickets, crowdfunding, marketplace, e-commerce. So it's the kind of full suite of anything you want from a peer-to-peer marketplace out of the box, which is brilliant because now I can deliver on this 2-year partnership that I built up with Ashridge, which is a business school in just north of London. It's Castle National Park. It's quite cool. And so I'll be working with them not just to ship a platform, but to be their community curator. And it's wonderful to be working with business academics, the bridge between that gap between big companies and academia. It's quite a fun space. And so what I'm also going to do is then take all of my knowledge from Exponentials and the stuff that I'm doing with my startups and create an online crash course as well. So stuff like what you're going to hear today, plus basically a breakdown of everything I do in terms of design. And that will hopefully, it's called Lisa, the sexy younger sister of Linda.com. Because Linda was what I used to learn, and I want to create a sexy version. But all of that stuff, you might think that that's quite a lot to have done in a year. But one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I haven't just been obsessed about work. For me, Exponential was about building the life that I wanted, not just a company. So one of the things I've done over the last 6 to 8 months is I rented out a painting studio, and 2 to 3 days a week I would paint, which is great. I'm going to do an exhibition, which was the goal, later this year, which should be super fun. So I mainly do abstract kind of landscape type stuff. And it's going to be a cafe that actually is run by a lady who went to my old architecture school, which was also fun. So here's a few more photographs of some of the works. So, and then I always like to end on a big crazy dream, which is what ultimately I'm working towards. Which, thanks to a conversation with Liam at a cafe, sparked this name, Leo. Which one of the things that, coming full circle from my time in architecture school, I would love to be able to build high-tech eco-villages, which become places of play and learning and just hanging out. So one day, I'll get there. So, moving on to philosophies and tools, because even though a story like this is fun to hear, how does this get turned into real things that you can action and you can use day to day? So, the first thing is, a good philosophy to have is think as long-term as you possibly can. When I first started, I really was terrible. I had My ideas were rubbish. The quality of my work was, you know, not just embarrassing to show, but just completely impossible to turn into any kind of money. However, it's a starting point, and it's not where you start, it's where you want to go. And so the most important thing is, in the first year at least, isn't to make lots of money or to get a big salary, it's to build skills fast and to fail as quickly as you can so that you iterate and you kind of figure out what your strengths are. And so that's really important. And I'll get onto some of these tools that I've used that have really helped me. Then a really key philosophy is focus on value, not money. It's very easy in today's world to kind of base everything around kind of what is it worth? You know, how much, what's the price tag I can put on this service or this product? But actually there are many more nuanced ways of thinking about value. So there's the intellectual capital you have, your skills, your understanding, your market insight. There's your reputation, the networks, the fact that you can pick up a call and send an email and an influential person will reply to you the next day. That's all very valuable. And to think less in terms of money and more in terms of assets. And for me, always the most important asset that I have is my time. And if I'm not using my time at my highest point of contribution, then something is wrong. And how can you use your time to invest into technology assets and then potentially property assets that will actually create wealth? How can you turn 1 hour of your time today into 10 hours tomorrow, and then 100 hours the next day, and 1,000 hours the day after that? So it's something really to think about. It's at this stage when, definitely for me, cash flow isn't so important. I need to pay rent, I need to pay food, I need to cycle and have a laptop. That's kind of my costs. So that gives me a lot of flexibility to invest into the longer term things that can then give me a great return later on. So, ironically, after all of this kind of big roller coaster of 4 years, I would say that the most important question, business question to ask for any entrepreneur isn't about what's your purpose, what's your business, or anything like that. It's a question around how do you want to live? Because it is your life that becomes the foundation of your career, not the other way around. And so, one of the things that would be fun to do is to spend a minute or so while I get a glass of water to just reflect on this one question. How do you want to live? Irrespective of your business, what is the lifestyle design that you aspire to? So that's just in silence, close your eyes, meditate. Coaching course about a year and a half ago. And even though I didn't really realize the significance of this thing at the time, it definitely shaped my path. And so doing the kind of 5 days, like 3 days of active listening, and then 2 more days. A bit later, a shiny goal rose to the surface. To live a life of adventure with a tribe of exponentials. And even though I didn't know it at the time, that would shape not only my company, but the way I chose to live. So, now if I kind of have to define it, what is the purpose of this company and also my journey? And it's definitely the 2 words that I like together. It's accelerated learning. Whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in design or technology, how do we accelerate learning? And that's the core purpose. But it's also important not to just define purpose, but also to anchor in what are the principles that are going to give that purpose substance. And for me, it came down to 3 things. After quite a difficult explosion in my life last year, where I quit my previous venture, one of the things that was fundamental to me was this idea of freedom. Unrestricted autonomy and a culture of partnership at the heart of everything that I do. I don't employ anyone at Exponentials, and I never plan to. And I will resist it at all costs. Either people will voluntarily want to work together, or we'll build a partnership. But it's, I think that a command and control environment that salaries and employment creates can actually be incredibly disruptive, especially to a lean, agile team. The second point is meritocracy. I know what it means to sell a really big story and get a lot of money, but I always think it's more meaningful if you can align your rhetoric with something of substance. And so rewarding people based on results and not rhetoric is so important. And it's very easy, it's important to understand the motivations that go behind what people do.
Sorry, Anton, I've just got to say, you are just so wonderfully politically correct on that. Well done. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. You're being diplomatic. I love it about you. I love hearing it. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that when I started, I was very, very naive about psychology, people, and business. And I think you have to go through a couple of experiences in order to understand all the dynamics that are at play. And so I think this is one of the things that I really respect about Juan, and why he's probably the person I admire most in the social enterprise world, who you'll meet later today, is he lives and breathes this point, meritocracy. And I think that you'll totally see that. Thirdly is impact. Like, I'm very, very tired of all this social enterprise stuff. It's, I'll let you guys enter this world and see for yourself. But for me, I just want to pick a problem that is important, that isn't selling TV and advertising, and to find a way to make that work. And it's interesting problems that are solving things that matter to people, and that's what really makes a social enterprise. And actually, there's a lot of subsidy that lives within that space, and it's tiring. It doesn't necessarily help. So for me, impact is just about the problem you choose to solve. And the difference between a social entrepreneur and entrepreneur is simply the problems that you choose to devote your time to. So that's for me, working on meaningful problems. So, another really important tool, and one that I really learned in a big way last year, is how easy it is to fall into a vicious cycle of denial about what's actually happening in your life. It happens, and unless you design time to be silent, to be mindful, to stop, it's very easy to then fall into a vicious cycle. So one of the things that I do religiously now is I block out regular time, either it's painting or it's just walk in the park or a book to read, to take time to slow down. It's very easy in a big city, with lots of meetings to have, lots of businesses to push, to be very, very fast all the time. But it's not helpful, and actually you end up being busy, but not actually moving in the right direction. So that time to be mindful is incredibly essential, and it needs to go into your calendar, because it's something that is it should become a practice in your life rather than just something that you do when everything crashes. So, another element is one of the things I've noticed coaching entrepreneurs at all different levels of business is this notion of startup zen. It's the hardest part of being an entrepreneur is bouncing between selling and doing. It's a very, very emotionally draining thing. Because on one side, you're standing up and you're telling the world that you're absolutely amazing and money should just be thrown at you left, right, and center because it's the next big thing. And then you go back to your office and everything is a mess. No one's doing their work properly, you're 10 months behind what you expect on technology, and it's a nightmare. And so, but at the same time, if you lock yourself in a bubble and all you do is build a product, and then you wake up one day and say, why isn't anyone using it? And why isn't anyone buying it? And what's going on? So this constant oscillation from selling and doing, and it's a kind of a jigsaw, is really, really hard. And this is part of the reason why designing mindfulness and silence into your week is important, because you can reflect on where you are on that balance. You know, even though you can make a sale, it doesn't mean that you should. I have a friend who went into overdrive on sales, and it hasn't made his life happy. It hasn't made his life any better. And even though it can be appealing to run after bigger and better, it might not always be the smartest thing longer term. So, startup zen. Always think about balance, selling and doing in parallel, and how you navigate between the two. Are you too much on one side or the other? And then there's books. A lot of people talk about entrepreneurship being about doing stuff, right? It's all about going out there in the real world and getting shit done. We're not academics, we're not students, we don't write essays, we make things in the world. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't read. Reading is one of the rare forms of learning that is becoming less and less and less and less valued. And it's never been more and more and more important. So some of the best mentors that I've had always, they chat to me and then they give me a book to read. And I read it, and I try and stick to a book a week. And the reason I do that is because reading puts you in a space where everything slows down and you're able to go deeper. And it's that depth that really matters. If you're running around constantly doing stuff, answering email, going to meetings, often you don't slow down, you don't go deeper, you don't actually ask yourself bigger questions and stay with them long enough to come up with something insightful. So these books, Power of Silence, amazing, by a fantastic guy called Simon Hamcourse, was the first book he told me to read. Essentialism, it's almost like an exponential DIY guide around how to get to the essence of what you do. Lean UX, quiet, increasing ideas. Become a master of how the brain works. It really helps in designing your own life and working with others. So, there we go. Another very important one is, and it might be difficult for people that aren't natural writers and kinesthetic learners, but Evernote. So if you haven't got Evernote, you should definitely download it as soon as possible, have it on your desktop. Evernote isn't just a note-taking app, it's a second brain. It's your memory store of everything you see, whether it's meetings that you then take notes and write down, if it's insights, if it's blogs you copy and paste it across, if it's emails that you particularly are planning to write. It's basically my Word document, it's my bookmarking tool, it's everything, all into one. And what makes it so powerful is the search. You can basically search for any word, and it shows you not just the results of the notes, but also where in the note that word is. So you can effectively develop habits that enable you to store huge realms of data and information all in one place, in the cloud, accessible from any device, so that you don't need to remember anything. And it's a process that I have developed over the last 2 years where I always create buffers between my meetings. So not only can I reflect on how that meeting went, but I also type up all my notes and I action. So right in that moment when it's fresh, all the things I didn't write down, I can still capture that. Because it's proven that unless we act on the knowledge we get, it disappears and we don't remember it anymore. It's something like 75% disappears. So unless you develop a practice where you're actively processing that, putting it into a system that you understand, you're going to miss out on a lot of the nuggets that can serve you well. So Evernote, again, it's free. It's amazing. It's free. Genius. So this then brings me perfectly to, I've read quite a lot of business productivity books, probably about 20. Don't do that. They're very boring, they're very dull, they repeat themselves all the time, almost every chapter. Everything, all of those books can be summed down up in this slide. Firstly, is do it now. If we have a task that we know will take us less than 2 minutes of time, choosing to delegate that task is very wasteful, because putting it in our memory, putting it on a list, by the time we've got back to it, we've wasted those 2 minutes already. So just get it done now. So if I get an email and I see it, right in that moment, I will just add it back, because I know it will take me 2 minutes and it's not worth storing or processing or putting on a to-do list. So just that habit of doing it now will basically take out so much of the noise that comes in and out of your life. And so that's a good habit to get into, because actually you're saving all of the, even though you might be slightly busy and you have to balance it out, that's a good question to ask. Is there any point in delegating this, or can I just bat it away? Then there's mind like water. There's a wonderful metaphor where this kind of monk puts a glass on the table and starts pouring water into the glass. And keeps pouring until it starts overflowing, filling the table of the carpet. And then obviously the sensei or the student is irritated and saying, well, you've got water over my carpet, what are you doing? And then the monk says, well, this is your brain right now. No more water can go into your cup. You're full of lots of thoughts already, and assumptions and biases and judgments. So you need to empty your mind before new thinking can come. And in a similar way, you get very, very stressed if you don't have a system in which all of the inputs that hit you in day to day can't be processed, so that you can have an empty mind, almost like mind like water. So it's design a process where you can let information come and then go as quickly as possible. And never know it's greater than. So information comes, boom, it's in the notebook, it's in the cloud-based technology tool, and it's out of my head. So that I can be present, so my brain can be active, and I can be processing things. So mind like water is a good method. Then there's a very simple truth, which is all time is not created equal. By that, I mean, time is not equal, which is why I hate the idea of a 9 to 5 or, clock in, clock out. It's ridiculous. You want to be at your highest point of performance for your most important tasks. It's the Pareto principle, 80-20. And part of figuring what that is actually taking the time to stop and notice your mood. I never take business meetings before 11. And I try and avoid Mondays. So I prefer Monday to be a weekend. So I usually paint. I try and avoid meetings then. I prefer to start on Tuesday. Now, it's not always possible for me to do that, but I like the fact that I can choose. And it's based on me understanding my body clock and my moods, and taking the time to really think, how can I be most effective with my time? Another key point, which closes the productivity slide, is this notion of if you're an internal optimist, what you end up doing is you end up overbooking. You kind of imagine that every second of every day is going to be super productive, and that you're going to be at your best. And so you overbook, and you think, I can do everything. Yeah, sure. But maybe one day you can, maybe 2 days, maybe a whole week. But in a month, you'll be running after your tail. And so developing the practice to really create big blocks in your diary, not because you know that life happens, and by making sure that you have that buffer, you can be effective and calm and collected and really make the most of the time that you're spending now, rather than constantly running and being stressed because your list is too high. So that is all you need to know about productivity, and some of the nuggets that I took away. Then a nice little slide, which I like. Design your business around strengths, which is where the question, how do you want to live, comes in. What are you about? There are plenty of great ideas out there, but a business opportunity is when you find a good idea that aligns with your personal strengths and interests. So really say no to things that aren't aligned with your strengths, because once again it's the 80-20. If you try and do everything, you end up doing one. And so yeah, so the final thing before I move into pitching is if I could reflect back on these 4 years, I used to think very much in terms of, the old spirals of success, of like the achiever mindset that's kind of nailed into you at school. To kind of, I wanted to prove something, I wanted to build a big business and have all these metrics. And one of the things that I think has come out of definitely the last year is thinking of your life as the foundation, as the soil, and your career as the harvest. There's a great metaphor in the book, Essentialism, which basically says, like, you've got 5 juggling balls in your life. You've got your work, you've got your integrity, you've got your family, you've got your friends, and you've got your health. And then you juggle them all the time. The work ball is made out of rubber. You can like throw it in the air, you can do whatever you want, it will just bounce straight back. But all the other 4 are made of glass. And if they drop, they might shatter, and you might not be able to pick them up again. So if you had to do one thing, just make sure that they're not going to drop those 4 glass balls. And actually the work thing will always bounce up and down and just be where it needs to be. And but if you drop the glass balls, you might not be able to pick them up again. So that's a nice metaphor actually for thinking about entrepreneurship, but often is rarely discussed because it's all about big exits and big deals and how quickly you can go. But actually, I think this is probably a more important question, at least from my experience. So, pitching and presenting. Ignore these shows, my first tip. Moving on. Cool, so design matters. And I would say this because it's the core of what I do. Apply and design process to the startup journey. Design matters. So there's a great Steve Jobs video which basically he says people don't have very much time to remember much about us. So what are we going to say so that people remember the most important things? So design is a little bit like that. It's rather than showing someone everything and they won't compute, you organize your information in such a way that they create an experience. And that experience is something they remember. And because of what they see, they can process so much more, so much quickly through an image as opposed to reading a word or a sentence. And so in a world where everyone is being, especially the important people, are being hounded with requests, pitch decks, left, right, and center, they get Word documents every minute. How do you stand out? And actually, by making something clean, minimal, to the point, it's a very great way to do that. So, there's a website called unsplash.com. You basically go there and you can freely use, download, and save as many high-res, beautiful photographs as you want. And this whole presentation is made actually from Unsplash photographs and a couple of my own illustrations. I just grab a photo, put a nice, this is what I do. I grab a photo, it's nice, from Unsplash. I put a white top and I put text. I usually bold in it, bold one word and not the other. And then, on top of that, I use nice fonts, not Times New Roman, but I use Montreal. And if you just, you can go to Font Squirrel, and there's a few others that I'll show you in a second, that, where you can get good fonts. So go to Unsplash. And then there's these sites. House, if you want to get great photographs of your house. Design box websites, awards.com, Unmatched Style, Dribble. Loads of great images there that you can grab that aren't Google images, aren't clip art. All free, all quick. And there's even a trick. If you see a website, if you're using Chrome browser, you can left click, go to inspect element, you can go to then the resources, go to images, and you can open every image on that website and save it into your own library. So usually the websites, they have all sorts of buttons on top of images and you can't really save them. This way you can. Every image you see on a website, you can save and you can put in your own archives. So build up your visual library so that you can throw them into bitsy presentations and you can actually make it effortless to create high quality, clean presentations.
Usually put it against YouTube.
You go onto Chrome.
Yeah.
You see a website and you say, that photograph, I want.
Yeah.
I want that. Because Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal, and you believe that. And so,
I see.
good, fantastic. Good man. So you left click, then you go inspect elements.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a little box that appears at the bottom. Then you go onto resources. and then it opens the resource tab. Then you go on to images, or kind of you keep that unlocking all of those sidebars, and there's images there. And you select these. Yeah.
Sorry, I just.
No, it's really important.
Amazing.
So you keep clicking that. Images there.
Oh, yeah.
And then you unlock that, and then you open a new tab and go.
Yeah.
Cool. And then they're all there.
Oh, amazing.
See?
And they're all for free if you're not paying any trouble if you use it for
If you use it, I'm not illegal enforcing copyright. I mean, I'm of the belief that all information should be free. But I mean, if you want to be sensible and you're using it on your home page, I wouldn't nick Airbnb's homepage image, for example. If you want to be politically correct, you need to ask the owner of the image that they can use.
They want to look photographs and things, so they're meant to be free, like just use them.
If you go to Unsplash, that site is designed for you to use it freely, and it's obviously if you take images that you just find on other people's websites, that's not strictly legal, but it's within your conscience to decide.
But these ones here on the left-hand side.
So these are all designs that are shared. So feel free to just screenshot, and also what you can do if you know Illustrator, and I'll get onto that, copy that across, redraw all of the shapes, and then move them around, and it becomes yours. And then you can change the colors and do what you will, combine it with other things. It's, everything is a remix. So feel free to not reinvent the wheel, but actually build on the design that's out there. Also fonts. Font Squirrel, My Fonts, google.com/fonts. Use nice fonts. It really does make a difference. Montreal, Bryant, Lee Gothic, nice sans serifs. Just Google what are nice fonts to use, and you get all your answers. And have a few, and you can use them for logo designs, nice presentations. Cool. So then there's building a visual library. So as well as having your Evernote archive of all the information that you're organizing in real time in your life, you also, it's useful to build screenshot libraries. And I do that for market research, but also for design. So every time I see anything in the web that I like, either it's from a design perspective or it's from a market perspective, it gets logged, it gets screenshot, and it gets put into a folder where I know where that folder is. And it's amazing.
Sorry, this is a really, really, really stupid question, but I don't know how to do a screenshot.
Right. Okay. I guess that if you have a Mac, then it's just Apple Shift F4.
It's plenty of stuff. I can show you on Chrome, or just do a Google search and figure out.
If there's any specific technical question you ask, you Google it.
I did though when I
how to do a screenshot?
YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's with a bit more digging, you'll find your answer.
I had to do it recently for this because I'm a Mac user, and these guys are experts on YouTube's great.
Yeah, so Snippet, there's all sorts of tools, but it's the principle here isn't what tool you use, it's the fact that you're building an unconscious habit where you're constantly taking good things that you see and you're organizing it in a way that you can use later. Whether it's images, photographs, designs, fonts, so that you can really get good design quick. Because I really believe this, you don't need to be an artist to be a great designer, anyone can do it. It's just a matter of following the process, building a library, standing on the shoulder of the great designers that have already been, and just leave more white space. If there's one thing that makes good design versus bad design, it's too much stuff. It's follow the Apple way. The less is more, leave more white space if in doubt. And actually that's really the only lesson. And then just borrow and steal as much as you can.
Can you give us an example between the two?
Borrow and steal.
Leave more white space.
Oh, right. Well, if you think about this one, like it's, a lot of people would make that short, kind of cut it here, put that here, and it's like, a lot of room. Like imagine you're in a living room, right? And you pack it full of like loads of chairs and loads of things, no one can breathe. You want to be space to breathe and walk around and leave good spacing in between your tents. And if you're building a website, think think about the stages that they're taking people through as you scroll down. And yeah, just, does it feel balanced? Is everything in line? And is there, do you get a feeling that this is simple and calm to look at this? Or does it feel like 10,000 things are going on and I want to click on? Like, so the opposite of Ryan, basically, is what you're looking for. Okay, leave white space. And then learn these programs. So these are my tools that enable me to basically mass produce content. So whether it's a meeting, or a strategy, or a diagram, or a consulting session I'm doing, I throw everything into Illustrator, I mock it out, I canvas it, I create my mind maps, and then boom, I have lovely slides that people think, wow, you must have spent so much time and care on this. Wow. No, it took me 5 minutes because I've got templates and I've done this all before. So if you build in that system and you know how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, and also Wix for quickly knocking things up online, then you're in a good place.
Is there a major difference between like Photoshop and Illustrator?
Yes, it's a vector. Illustrator is a vector program, whereas Photoshop is a pixel program. So I mainly use Illustrator for pretty much everything, unless I want to do a slight image tweak and bring an image into Illustrator. But for document creation, for logos, for everything, I use Illustrator because it's just brilliant. And I'm actually, LisaLearn.com, I'm creating to serve this purpose so that everyone in an hour and a half can basically become as good as me at Illustrator, Photoshop, and Wix, and can have tools. So that's and then that would be a kind of a crash course in digital design and entrepreneurship.
What's your recommendation at the moment, like for your little course? Like?
Go to lynda.com and suffer through hours and hours of American videos. So this is the best that's out there right now. So Wix is also, please just go onto it. The templates are horrible. It's used badly, but it is a free way for you to build any online prototype. And if you get good at these programs, you can pretty much do anything with respect to media online. So there's also, what will go into these is hacks on how to create very lean, high-quality video animations, how to create good graphics, presentation slides, PDFs, and get it all online. So that's will come, but
when's your course ready?
it depends when I have time. So I think over Christmas.
Stop painting. Just, I want it.
We'll see. And it will incorporate some of this stuff too. Okay, another thing for web is context is everything. For design, context is everything. Just like with sales, you need to understand what the context is for your interaction. If you're giving a presentation like this to a room full of people, less is more. Right? You want to have big images, not very much text, so that people can focus on you rather than spending all their energy reading the slides. To be honest, if I practiced this before, I would have less text. But I actually need this to remember all the points. But you want to have just nice big bold images and everything anchors back to the presenter. If you're emailing someone, then sending them that presentation is meaningless because they don't have you talking. So you need to be much more text heavy, but still think about where they're going to be viewing it. Are they going to be printing it out? Okay, it needs to be A4. Or are they going to be viewing it on their screen, which is much more likely. So if you're going to be doing it on the screen, then don't go for the boring PowerPoint slide. Go for the long view. Because most people actually in their browser, this is what they see when they click open on your attachment. So if you've got cut-off title here and a little logo here because it's an A4 document, that's not a good experience. So you want to think of this shit size as being one slide. And every PDF you create is one slide at a time. So you take them on a journey as they scroll down. That's a really good way if you actually want people to action your PDFs. It's so that, because it's not just you following up based on a conversation, they need to then email it to their team or to their colleague to tell them about it. So you're making it really easy for them to pass on everything that you've just told them to their name. So following that horizontal format is useful. Another point is research, content creation. A lot of people think of research as just living on the internet. And you just keep Googling and then you'll get there. But research is a hybrid process that mixes real world interactions with people and also lots of research and search on the web. So the two go hand in hand. The more you research, the more you look for people that are influential in the space. You meet them, and then they give you more links, and then you read and you find more. And actually, if you want to really get good market research, you can't just go online and find some generic numbers. You have to go out into the real big bad world and draw in their insights. Because actually there is the internet, it's great, but there's also all of the knowledge that lives within the influential people in your market. There is a whole other layer of data, and you need to be tapping into that. So the research process is constantly a hybrid of networking and also reading and searching online. So that's important to think about. Which then brings me nicely to how to get in front of the right people. Busy people don't tend to meet people unless there's a good purpose behind it, and unless you can be concise. So what I've done is, okay, I'll go back to that slide in a second because I'll talk about this. When I first joined Good People, I was absolutely terrible at meetings and events. I hated it. It was not fun. To be honest, I'm kind of a hybrid between introvert and extrovert. I don't like networking events still. I treat it as a game. I go, I play, I get my results, but it brings me no joy. It's a very kind of transactional environment. However, I have broken down a process around how to network, how to send emails that works and gets you results. And really think of it as a game. You're entering this game space and you need to perform in order to get your gold stars or your bits of water or whatever the prize is in that game. So, if you're an event or you're doing a networking thing, how do you basically, how do you approach it? Well, good tip is to ask a question. While the speakers are talking, if you can do one thing and one thing only, come up with a question so that when someone says questions, your hand is up there and a light being pop. Because there's always this time lag between when people, say, are there any questions? Then there's 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, someone puts their hand up. If you're ready there and your hand is up, you'll always get the question because you prepared. You're not thinking about it in that time. You prepared it, and then you can ask a question. And after you ask the question, that gives you a wonderful excuse to go and talk to the speaker and get their business card and to say, I really like your answer. Here's another follow-up question. So, the purpose of asking a question is, A, you build some sort of connection and notoriety among the audience, but you also have to give yourself an excuse to action the speaker. Once again, another point is, if you were invited at the event, always thank the host. It's a nice thing to do, you'll be invited back. And then what you want to approach is, no one ever makes a sale in a networking event, so don't try. What you want to do is you want to basically present yourself in a very confident light. And you also want to ask good questions, and you want to listen out for clues. Little data points about people and what they need and who they're connected to and who you know. And also do a little bit of name dropping, brands, projects. You want to entice curiosity so that when you follow up later, they open your email and they want to find out more. So my previous partner, he was a genius in this, and he described everything as a courtship. What you're doing is you're planting seeds so that those seeds can germinate over time. And it comes back to this very important slide. No one likes to be sold to, everyone likes to buy. And so what you do is you create a Wizard of Oz type of environment in which you create a persona of these guys are on a rocket ship and I don't want to miss out. What can we do? How can we collaborate? And you're always capturing the clues and throwing them into Evernote about the people you meet, the conversations you have, how you can make introductions, where are the synergies, where are the points of value creation, so that then you can be in a point where people come to you. And not once do you ever say, this is what I'm doing, please buy. You always just build relationship, ask good questions, be insightful, and also have fun. Or try to. It's difficult at these things, I know. But it's this notion of being very, very laid back, asking great questions, and not trying to push too much too soon. So that's networking. And always follow up within a day or two of the event. because you want to stay fresh. And then it comes to how to send an email. So if you haven't got these two things already, yeah, it's Gmail and it's Streak. Streak enables you to basically, it's a plugin for Gmail, and it enables you to save templated emails. So that literally you can just like load up the templated email each time. It's just like save you 10 seconds of copying and pasting every email. Useful. And it also enables you to see who's opened your emails. So if you've seen that they've opened your emails, but they haven't replied, then you can give them a playful nudge a week later. So once again, get these tools. Okay, so how to then get everyone to reply to your emails. This is one of the things that I do most with my founder partners and the startups I work with. Right, so you have an engaging subject line, right? So no one's going to read a newspaper article if it's boring and dull and doesn't stand out. So come up with something a little bit creative, fanciful, something that they wouldn't usually see in their inbox. It's amazing how the unexpected gets people to click. Then, firstly,
that example again, sorry.
Okay, urgent, semicolon, we need to meet. Directives.
Urgent just makes it quicker, like, no.
Yeah, it made you click no. Maybe. Could be. So it depends on the person. Another thing is come up with something a little bit like, we're using Google Glass to act as the eyes of blind people. Oh, right, what? Good. Google Glass? Buzzword. Open. Elephants are building the bank for students. Oh, what? Elephants building a bank for students? Okay, click. So, but then, so just like any headline, read advertising, books, PR, how do you get people to read stuff in a world of noise? Okay, second thing is you need to very quickly build a point of trust. And this is about leveraging brands, reputations, people they know. So a good process is Reported. Another tool should be on this slide, over on that bit. Reported also syncs with your Gmail, which is why everyone should have Gmails because of all the apps you can plug into it to basically supercharge Gmail. And Reported enables you to basically load all of their social profile if you hover over their email address. So very quickly you can literally click one button, go to their LinkedIn, press connect, and just get into the habit of building a database on LinkedIn. Because the more people you have on LinkedIn, the more secondary connections you have, and the more people that you can send messages to. So it's just a super valuable tool. And if you build a habit of just adding people left, right, and center whenever you get an email from or you're about to email them, it's a good habit. And then you look, oh, I've got 3,000 people in my connections, and it means that I kind of have access to loads of others. So it's useful. It's not going to necessarily pay off tomorrow, but in 5-10 years' time will be useful. And so you want to
Point of trust, just on Reported.
Yes.
You know when you click to connect when you're on Gmail, and it gives you a standard template which Reported has asked you to.
Oh yeah, delete that, send an empty message.
You send an empty one. Do you personalise that at the time?
It depends.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, it's up to you. I just use it as a quite like button bash. You know, it's a 2-second thing just to get it off the list. Why not? They can add me, they cannot. I'm just building a database here. So that
when you use Reported, so it kind of just sets up the Gmail automatically.
yes, it's a wonderful API that Google create, and basically it's a one-click, it goes to your Gmail, it all gets integrated. Just click, keep clicking.
And same with Streak.
Stay in Streak.
Okay.
So basically, the Streak and Reported turn Gmail into a super tool. So, which Yahoo, Mail, and other things don't. So that's why Gmail is better, because of its APIs. And generally, people like to build stuff on top of Google. So, anyway, point of trust. Someone that you know, something you've done, something noteworthy that makes them think, ooh, this person's influential. Or, you know, there's a point of like, I want to read on. Like this isn't just a random. And then a really concise short summary of what you do. Like, hi, we're launching a venture called Give Vision, and we're using Google Glass to act as eyes for blind people. We want to provide in the moment support to blind people using vision technology. Can we borrow 15 minutes of your time? Which is hence the call to action. If you've got any video links or attachments, add them with the format, but keep it super sharp. One line, 1 point, 1 line, 1 point. People don't have time to read them. And then give them, after your call to action, and always ask for 15 minutes, because everyone's got 15 minutes to over Skype or a meeting. And then say a referral. And give them an escape. Once again, it's based on psychology, which is no one likes to say no. People build practice of saying no, and it serves them very well in their lives, but it's not something, everyone wants to say yes.
Do you give them the get out the first email, or anyway said no, or don't reply?
I don't know, it's something to test you. Sometimes I say, put it in the email saying, great 50 minutes, if you can't, could you recommend someone that you think would be of that? Always a great question to ask after every meeting or every interaction is there anyone else that you know that could benefit and I could benefit from meeting? And so once again, it starts to tap into that network mind, and it's a good way to bounce from one interesting conversation to the next. And always say thank you. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it. Politeness goes a long way, and if there's something you can say at the top as well, it's a bit funny, and it's about how you know them, personalizes it a bit, makes them feel that it isn't as bound. Cool. So, and be patient. Please be patient when it comes to sales and relationship building. We're planting seeds. We're building a long-term relationship here. We're not looking for a one-night stand. So please be slow, be patient with people, and really listen out for win-wins. What value can you bring to them? It has to be reciprocal. It's give and take. So really be patient. It took us to raise £1.5 million, almost 8 months from we were pretty sure we'd get the deal to actually cash in the bank, where we had completely broke. We reached a point where literally neither of us had any money in our bank accounts. And yet then all the big money came. So it's amazing how important it is to be patient, especially when it comes to the bigger deals. Even the Ashridge project, the partnership, we're doing a big deal with an academic institution, even though they are business school and they're a little bit more forward-thinking, it still takes time. And so bear that in mind in terms of having the short-term cash flow solution as well as the long-term deal. So no one likes to be sold to. And then fundraising is all about relationships and momentum. So people have fear of loss is much greater than desire for gain. It's one of those things that are built into the human psyche. So missing out on a big deal is more influential than wanting to capitalize on a big gain. Don't ask me why. Maybe the world isn't full of optimism. But a great way to create this kind of snowball effect. Whenever you want to close a big deal, you want to build momentum. And so you talk to this organization, and then you mention to this organization, you talk to that organization. And then you do this little bit and this little bit. And so you line up your dominoes in a way that actually everyone feels, wow, I don't want to miss out on this really big thing. And these guys are involved. And the best way story that I can use to describe the importance of momentum is Bob Geldof. Actually, in a way, there are two great moments of sales that happened in the world. One was Bob Geldof, the other one was Bill Gates. So Bill Gates' story first. He was at IBM. He had nothing, completely broke, with Stephen Ballmer next to him. And I think it might be just Stephen Ballmer. And they went to IBM and they were basically saying, give us the money so that we can develop an operating system. And then IBM went, oh, I guess, we're in the business of building and selling computers, right? Why are we meeting these stupid software guys? Okay, I guess that our computers need some operating systems so that they can be used. Okay, fine. And then IBM was like, yeah, the future of computing isn't the software, it's in the products we sell, because we're like a real company, not these kids on the street. But we can use these guys. And then Bill Gates sat there and said, yep, we've got this operating system all ready to go. We just need X, 100K. And then IBM said, oh, okay, but we own all the licenses. He said, no, we have complete licenses. Oh, but you can only sell to us, right? No, we can sell to anyone. And then they went, no, I don't know, we don't usually do that with IBM, but okay. They joked. But the money isn't in software, it's in selling computers, right? Yeah. So then Bill Gates walked out of that meeting, took his 100K check, and the first thing he did was he he went to the company that he knew that had already built something similar and bought it. And they were like, wow, 30K, £30,000? We were just playing around in our garage. And that was the start of Microsoft. And that moment was quite incredible, right? Well, he had nothing. He sat in a room and he got IBM to basically fund his business and give him all control over reselling. And basically, that meeting was the start of the biggest company in the world.
It sounds like dirty middleman. It sounds like the state agent.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. It's like go right or wrong or so forth. It's just, if you could think about being in the right time, at the right place, and understanding the needs and the stakeholder map, which I'll get to at the end. So we'll learn how to construct our own kind of maps of our market so that we can find our Steve Jobs moment, Bill Gates moment. Another great one is Bob Geldof. It's a little bit more, maybe I think, even though IBM, screwing IBM is nothing wrong with that. So Bob Geldof, he was in a time in his career where things weren't going so well. He saw on TV the stuff happening in Africa, and the stuff happening in Africa, and he said we've got to do something about that. So he went on TV and basically said we've all agreed, the music industry that I speak for, that we're going to do the biggest concert in the world to raise money for kids in Africa. And and then he reads out the list of every single band around the world that had status. He hadn't made one phone call, he hadn't asked one band. And he just read out on TV. And then obviously phone calls came in and said, what? And then he just said, yeah, I thought you'd say yes. Because these guys are playing, these guys, do you want in or do you want out? I mean, but we booked a tour and said, we'll rearrange it, cancel it. Slams the phone down. Then the next call comes in and he says, what? You want? Okay, and then they say that we just go, we'll do this, but we want like a big, big caravan, we want this, we want to place last, and we want to. So, no, you play when you're told. Slams the phone down. And eventually, the Live 8 concert goes, the first time a live concert stream from 8 countries in the world actually happens, just by leveraging the momentum of the moment, the cause, and everyone else, because no one wants to not be on the rocket ship.
Do you know how you got the airtime digitally?
I don't know. I imagine
Imagine lying.
it's true. So the point of these stories isn't that lying is good. It's important to get that. It's the value of momentum in order to get the stakeholders across the line. So, good things come to those who wait. Yes, play the funders game. Oh yeah, listen out when you attend talks in your market or networking events. Listen out for words and cues. What makes people feel that a pitch is safe and certain? How do you sell certainty in an uncertain world? It's by using familiar language that your audience will understand. And so, by listening out for memes, planting seeds, understanding where the language of the time is, you can create a pitch that people feel is sensible, is familiar, and safe. And that's a really useful thing to do. And then a very good friend of mine, he's very theatrical, and he really inspired this slide, which is using theatre as a metaphor for sales. Just put yourself into a West End theatre, and in that moment you suspend belief and you're able to imagine and partake in an experience. So when you approach sales, you are creating an experience that then makes people want to buy and want to see where the story ends, rather than a kind of a dry logistical we do this X, Y, Z. It's the golden circle. You don't sell what you do, you sell why you do it. And so any way that you can bring a sense of theatre into the sale is important. And also, you have to become the character of your play. And even though if you're raising investment, there is an element of momentum you have to build. And you shouldn't say things that aren't true, but you should create an appearance in the theatre that makes people want not want to miss out, because no one knows what's going to happen in the future. But how do you create the environment where they believe that you can make it happen? So then that leads me to the finale, which is a very useful process that I do for various clients that helps them to really anchor down on a communication strategy that they can use amongst their stakeholders. And it's probably at the heart of everything that I do with my startups. So the first one is your purpose pitch. And then the next one is a stakeholders map and value flows, and then finally we're creating the month's test. So I just created this yesterday, so put this in the slide. So this, how do you tell the purpose pitch? Okay, let's think about it this way. If you try and create one story for everyone, it will always be completely useless. There is no such thing as one message that works for every stakeholder. Therefore, don't bother trying to create one. So the purpose pitch is actually something that is meant for you rather than the outside world, first and foremost. So what I'd like to ask is, how can you tell the story of your business through the eyes of one person, and one person only? So for Exponentials, my kind of purpose pitch is I want to help as many ones as possible in my lifetime. I very much believe in one and what he's about and how he handles himself. And so that becomes a very nice anchor for me in terms of, forget the numbers, forget the sales, forget the money. What does it actually come down to? One person and their life being influenced by what you do. And I think that that's a way to make it quite real and personal. It's very easy when writing purpose pitches to get lost in very, very big words. And I want to transform education, and I want to do this and this and this. How do you bring it down to that one person? So that's just a quick one. This is a real exercise.
And then just for the purpose pitch, then how does that translate into your adaptation for each audience?
Exactly. So this then comes to stakeholder map and dialogues. So this is one of the most important things that any startup can do, and any entrepreneur. It's to go through these steps. Brainstorm every single type of person or organization that will touch your business in any shape, way, or form. Customers, clients, partners, employees, you name it. If they have any touch point with your startup or your world, they go on maps. And it's a big, big, big mind map. I will do it on Illustrator file. There are many other tools. And then you've got the stakeholder map. And then once you can then begin to cluster this, all of the post-it notes, all of the words that you came up with into stakeholder groups. So clients, banks, universities, academic institutions, suppliers, customers, students, And then around those clusters, you then need to really think about the value flow between your organization and them. What value can you bring to them, and what value can they bring to you? And this is super, super important, because once you then see the network around your market and around your business, then you can begin to see, oh right, this is what they need and this is what I can bring, and this is what they bring in. And then you spot synergies and points of connection. And then once you have this map drawn out, then you can begin to say, okay, how can I tailor on this communications in a way that is specific to each stakeholder? Because people don't want to hear about the whole thing. It's too much. What they want to do is hear the thing that is relevant to them. So if you really put yourself in the shoes of each stakeholder group, imagine, and then you write your communications as if they were a person sitting right in front of you. Then you have probably half a dozen documents, pitch decks, presentations, that you can then send that will give you results. Because you're not telling them the kind of big shebang of like, we're doing this and we're changing the world here. You're saying, top level, this is what we do. This is why it matters to you. This is the value you can gain. Would you like a meeting? And then you know in a meeting, wherever you meet, you can go, oh, okay, this person fits into this stakeholder group and this stakeholder group. Okay, right. So let's not talk about all of this stuff. Let's talk about the stuff that's relevant to them. And this stakeholder map is super useful for that stuff. So hopefully that's an exercise that we can try out today. Another So this is an example of what we do with Student Funder. And then we turn the stakeholder map into documents that look like this, PDFs that we can send out, tailoring for each user. And one of the things that's also important is don't think of comms as like, I need to define my business or story. Work really hard at it for 2 weeks and then it's done. This is something that is constantly going to be reiterated and reiterated. And I follow a process where every 3 months I throw everything out and I restart again. And I just try and rewrite the story of my organization again and again. Presentations like this are very helpful. And just really kind of that constantly revising based on what you've learned from the market, from the people you've met, is super useful. So always ask the question, right, there's what we set up and what we said, but then what are we actually doing? What feedback are we getting? And actually, is that more realistic than what we initially wrote down a few months ago? And then there's the MONS test, right, brilliant. So, the MONS test. If you think about it, you only have so much time, so many hours in a day. You can't possibly meet with everyone and have conversations with everyone. But what you can do is tell someone what you do in such a way that they can tell the next person, and they can tell the next person. And what you don't have is a Chinese whisper situation where it's like, yeah, these guys sell balloons. No, they don't, or whatever it might be. So the MONS test is really great. So can you tell your mum what you do? And then she goes to investors and then tells investors on your behalf. So, or a 12-year-old kid. So it forces you to get down to the essence of your pitch, to go a lot deeper. And then there's the difference between an elevator pitch and actually what closes deals. So an elevator pitch is a lovely bit of theatre that you perform to make, to wow an audience. But no one ever commits to a deal because you gave a great presentation and everyone laughed at it. The reason why people commit to a deal is because you sat down to them once a month for 3 hours and you answered every one of their questions. And you answered what they want to know. Isn't that you can tell a great story and present a wonderful idea, blah, blah, blah. It's that you know your market, you understand where you're positioned, you have a great strategy and traction, proof points, and then they want to see that, believe that you can deliver it. So being able to actually tell the story of your market and who are the players and how you differentiate. And so putting together basically internal FAQs that you could give to your mom so that she could answer any possible question. And then you go out there and you try and not do too many of these kind of fabulous kind of pitch presents. Try and get one-to-ones with people that really know their stuff so they can ask you the tough questions and really pincer in on the weaknesses and the areas where they feel that there's a point of conflict or inconsistency. And before you know it, you've got a couple of VCs to review your pitch deck and a few other things, and you've got a pretty solid argument. And then there's another little thing that I picked up and that I keep telling always. It's a bit like exam revision. I don't know if any of you approach your exams in this way, but I would never look at any notes 2 days before my exam. The reason for it is it's too late. So if I haven't done the preparation before 2 days of the exam, there's no point. And actually, the best thing to do is to forget about it, to sleep, to rest, and then I can be at my best on the exam. It's a very, very similar approach to presenting or going to a very important meeting. If you're trying to memorize little words, slogans, you're not present in the moment, and you're not thinking about how you are. You're thinking about what you want to say. And actually what you communicate in a meeting is so much more what you don't say than what you do say. So you do your preparation, and then you forget about it, enter that important meeting in the right headspace, with a smile on your face, with positive energy, and that's what you communicate. It's that confidence. So don't get too worked up about the details. It's really think about the mood and the presence that you have in that meeting. So that's another little nuance that I've noticed. with a lot of entrepreneurs that they get quite obsessed about content, and it needs to be that, of course. Like, you can't just drag your way through it, but it really does help to think about the emotional side of that meeting too. So, brilliant. So that is all I could conjure in terms of hacks and tricks and everything that I learned in the last 4 years. It would be wonderful if you guys could cluster into groups of 3 and to pick someone's project or idea and to follow this process of the stakeholder map and then the value flows. And then maybe towards the end you can take one of those, you can stand up and then give one pitch to one stakeholder of how you would, so then, and I'm making this up as I go, you do the stakeholder map, you map out some value flows, you pick one particular stakeholder, and then you come up here at the end to present.
Probably not going to get time, Anton.
No.
We've got a break to have now, so we'll do a break at 11:30. We've got to go on to so.
Well, then, any questions? And thanks for listening, and I hope that serves you for the rest of your careers.
That's amazing.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, there's 3 seconds there.
Right. So you were in a growth business, 1.5 million funding. Now you're in a lifestyle business. How did you make that decision? And why are you sure that that's the best decision for you?
Growth. It's all relative, isn't it? It depends. How we define growth.
Well, I was just defining it in the sense that you are in one business, not multiple businesses that you do a bit in. One business that's going to grow quickly. You dedicated a lot of time to that, and now it's a kind of lifestyle business. You're doing what you want. And yeah, I understand that the growth that you indirectly cause is very big now, but you've chosen a lifestyle thing instead of.
Money is an illusion in many ways. So we raised a lot of money, but we also tied ourselves to a lot of things that weren't aligned with at least my vision or my purpose. So even though on the surface we were very big, actually it wasn't the case. What I realized was what I wanted to do was think much longer term about my life, my career, and plant seeds in the right way so that you weren't just raising money, because actually raising money comes with a lot of consequences. It really does. Expectations. And for me, it was also about freedom and me building something that was on my own foundation. And so in terms of scale, it's a fascinating question. How do you choose between how you want to live and scaling a big business and making a good return? I see those two things as interdependent. And just to think about, we spent a lot of money and good people trying to build a platform, and it was terrible. And where I am now, I've managed to make the little money I do have go a hell of a lot further. So I really like this TED talk by this architect who is also a mayor in Curitiba, which is in Brazil. And he says creativity really begins when you take a zero off the budget. And I really think that you can get too caught up in fundraising. And also me and my business partner, we weren't aligned. So it doesn't matter how big you get, if you don't have that core alignment and your values and your vision isn't in place, it will just dissipate. And so in terms of lifestyle and scale, I think that I'm always looking at that synergy map. So you've got those 3 points: platform, acceleration, and design. Now, short term, medium term, and long term. Now, I always want to have the freedom that comes with being able to cover the cash flow. But I'm also being very, very smart with the longer term investments. So the startups I work with give me a lot of reputational capital that then will enable me to sell the technology I have. And then the technology I have will give me great way to add value to even larger institutions and networks, which will then. So it's saying that you don't have to scale by hiring lots of people and appearing very big. You can be strategic and you can be lean and you can focus on what's essential and play to your strengths. Because every time that you'll get you make your organisation bigger, you also raise your costs. And suddenly then you force yourself to have to cover those costs. And so decisions that you would otherwise like to make at a longer time, you can't because you're anchored on paying those bills, which before used to be £1.5 grand a month, and now £3 grand. And then 10 grand a month. And then we're chasing our own tail. And even though we appear very, very big to the outside world, actually we become weaker. So, we've basically devalued our assets. So it's a very interesting way of thinking about what is scale and how to really build scale in a sustainable way. And yeah, that's a big question. Any more? Darren, you must have a question.
No, I was just sort of mock it up based on what you were just sharing there. You know, if we listen to what Anton's been saying, he's been very explicit about some of his core values, so, and his sense of purpose. So, you know, freedom 4 or 5 times at least, having a sense of personal mission and vision, creativity beams off Anton, growth, loves to learn, you know, and the last one that he threw on balance, obviously, and he also then threw out about alignment with relationships. And if you think about yesterday and the day before, we were talking about the importance of the partnership. And what Anton's sort of saying to you subtly is that, you know, what was agreed and what happened wasn't what he experienced in the end. And if we map it really simply, what we're showing is this is who Anton is, this internal realm, this internal world, because he's done this work on himself to get clarity on who he is and what matters to him and why it matters to him, which is why we've reinforced this all the way through and why the coaching program always reinforces it, and always will, is it starts with you, it starts from within, not from the external. Whereas what some of the questions that have been asked have been about the external reality, where we've got all this money, we've got all this, you know, all this grandiose, all these stories, all these things that we've got the potential to do. But the thing was, the internal and the external weren't aligned. There was a mismatch. And so what happens is that you start to feel
Stress.
So there we go. You see? So if you were feeling stressed then, how do you feel now? So at peace. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great book I just started reading last night, which is why I didn't get as much sleep as I wanted, which is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's a really good book to read. I'm only on chapter 5 but
So he was a monk, he got a Ferrari.
No. The monk came after buying a Ferrari. He became a monk and sold his Ferrari to become a monk.
I like how
and then he came back to the world. Yeah. You just Google it. There aren't too
What's
many.
his name? Wayne, is it Wayne Dyer?
No, what's this? I really like it when people tell a fictional story to communicate a really set of principles.
Yeah.
And so that's what he does. He's a development coach that has built a story around his character and his lawyers.
It's like The Alchemist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. So just to kind of build on what Anton's been saying, so I get to see this quite a lot because of the position I'm in and the relationships that I go out and help people in. So I get to work with people who have dreamed all their life of getting to the top in an organisation, and then this is what often happens. They get to the top, so they become the CEO, and they ask themselves, well, what now? It's not that, it's, is this it? If it's not that, it's, oh shit, I'm going to get found out. Because it happens a lot, you know, it's called the imposter syndrome. So, you know, lots of people go through that, and then that's why when I'm working with these guys, especially if they've not done any of this self-development, I then start asking them about, okay, so what's the sense of legacy? What's the sense of potential and purpose? And what Anton's clearly articulated for you here today is he's done this thinking right now. So he started his career, and instead of getting to this point in his life, if this is time, and realising this when he gets to the top, because he will, and he already is, in terms of the way he's living his life, instead of doing that then, why not do it right now? And that's what he's done. He's got that sense of purpose here. He really knows his sense of purpose. So now he's working, you know, for the rest of the time, he's got that sense of purpose, and he can be aligned with it. And we've heard, you know, that having life balance, having the freedom and flexibility to do that, to create meaningful impact, is what drives this kind of impact, is the other way I should think about it. This is why we keep banging on about do the why, do the internal work, get that clarity. And then, as Anton has shared as well, his sense of what's valuable to him is really important. He'll look at his week and his diary, and there'll be space in there to do all these things. So what I love about seeing on Anton's Facebook and stuff like that is he's painting again. I know that Anton's in a great place when he's painting, because he's given himself that time to do it. And you see these amazing paintings. He's got an exhibition coming up at the end of the year, haven't you? So I've seen that Facebook message, just so you know.
Stalker.
Yeah. I think it's called lurking. I'm allowed to be a lurker. So I think, if we listen to what he said, is that life is not just about career, it's about building this design of your life. Yeah? So design your life. Don't design, your life around your work. Your work is designed around your core life principles. Anton knows this story because I've shared it with him. But 3 years ago, I realised that I wasn't at the school gates to see my kids. I realised I wasn't around my kids as much as I needed to because I was always out. So I changed my life so that at least twice a week I'm at the school gates to be with the kids. Every holiday I'm off with my kids. I take the whole of August off to be with my kids because that's what's most important to me. It goes back to what I said yesterday about at the end of day one. What's the 1% game? Who are the 5% game? They're in my 1% game. They're the people I want to be around. I've got to be around them. I've got a sense of responsibility. So that's why this kind of focus on the why is really critical and important. And thank you, Anton, for being here to share your story as eloquently as you do, as always. We'll be connecting you all up, so don't worry about that. So I'm sure you'll have other questions. Let's take a quick tea break for 10-15 minutes, and then we've got Juan, the legendary Juan, is coming in. So you'll get to meet the man. Okay, 10-15 minute break. Thank you. Yeah, we're looking to Italy.
Hi, are you joining us for the last time? Yeah, I'm on the same master's program and so we have lectures Tuesday and Wednesday. So interesting.
She wasn't going to check it.
So what are you doing? I'm designing my life. Selling a private plan. Like that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Yeah, exactly. I've got about 40 businesses that I could sort of pursue in lots of different ways. And I launched in June one of them. The other one's like theatre companies that can have secret date clubs. I make secret date couples, existing couples, normally celebrating anniversaries, special occasions, birthdays, all of them. I've done some wedding vouchers and things, so really lovely secret journeys and date night. And it got really hectic for about 2 months. I couldn't bear it. I've got a freelance, very artisan world where I get to do what I want and travel all the time. And I'm always bored and always a bit stressed about where I'm getting the next money, which is quite nice. So now I'm holidays where it's not easy all the time. I can still do all my other projects. It gives me extra freedom to fly to New York to go and work with people and do a show there, do some work there with projects out there. So yeah. So what's your master's? Yeah, I worked. So I graduated 2 years ago as a French at London, and then I went to France for a year. I went to university there, and then I came back and worked in school life. And now I really want to work in the technical sector. So yeah, I came close to sports, and I go there, so it goes through like governance and how's it going? It's going well, it's about 11 days so far. There's a lot of work, and I think it's yeah, I'm glad I have nothing else.
Was that what you meant to translate into? And I'll just laugh on the sidelines.
Then worked so now that's the child status. But it's in the Philippines, I'm not running it. My friend is Filipino, but he's like, he doesn't make the job. He was like the artist and I was the business person. Then I went into theatre school and became a poor artist as well. So, you're not meant to be the poor artist, my role. So, yeah, and then ever since then, I've always worked. I was Chernikov. It's a similar world, like the whole, you know, I worked with Nigerians, I've worked with charities, I've worked with schools, education, institutions, like teachers, I've worked with big organisations like the South Bank, yeah, just doing like lots of different projects, like so the street game with the South Bank, and just doing a big game with Radis World. So I just think it's like how charity works. We're trying to set up not-for-profit it's bonkers. It's very cool, and it is very individual as well, you know, like on a smaller scale as well. And how you go, I don't know if you're doing like international like charity stuff. Yeah.
I do art jams.
Yeah, and then before you get on the trust, not on the trust. Help to evaluate it. It's very personal. Like going out listening and trying to shape. Does that be funded? So our fundraising comes from different projects established by those people. So a lot of our funding comes from this group there, and I write it here. So yeah, they do fundraising like throughout the year, and I raise food where the charity on campus or in the and from like huge groups. I went to the school last year and we did like fundraising then. And so maybe
Yes,
contact like sports magazine, like golf and stuff. That's really nice, big fundraising. So it's just what do you do?
That's great, thank you.
They stood there where I was in the Philippines. They had been earning all their money from logging, illegal logging. So they were choosing it. I said, you can't do that anymore because it's legal. So this village was suddenly really poor. And they were really poor anyway, but they said, and then Currency Conservation, which is the organisation I worked for, went in and set up this conservation project to go like a volunteer project to get volunteers to come over from England to check to see which biodiversity, base our biodiversity was of the rainforest. You know, i.e. if anything was found, just looking at the